And our final speaker at the panel is John Pullinger, who will be known to many of you in the audience. John is the UK National Statistician, and he's been in that position since about 6 months or so ago. He's also a previous president of the Royal Statistical Society. John is passionate about statistical literacy. He was very influential in the Get Stats campaign starting here at the Royal Statistical Society, was the first chair of that, and also about maximising access to data. His responsibilities now include how he leads official statistics in this country to make sure that we innovate and take advantage of these opportunities. So I'm sure we're all anxious to hear from John.
Okay, thank you very much, Denise. My simple definition of big data for official statisticians is that it's a wake-up call, because it has changed our world, and it's only just beginning. So the opportunities and challenges that brings out is what I'm going to dwell on today. And I start with, what is the central purpose of official statistics? In Principle 1 of the UN Fundamental Principles, it tells us that we are there to do something of practical utility in the functioning of a democracy. So our whole being is around being useful. The core of our role in any time is mobilising the power of data to help society make better decisions. Big data means there's just a huge amount more data for us to play with. So there's lots more we can do, and an even bigger chance that we can make an even greater difference in the world. 5 areas of opportunity I highlight. The first one is one of relevance. It's often been quite hard in the past to find the data that actually fits the problem we're trying to address. Lots more data means lots more places we can look to find it, so we can target our analysis on what matters for decision making. Second, new data adds an awful lot to what we know on existing things. So measuring the economy is one of the hardest things we do. We can get some data in some cells, but in some areas, like the flow of money around the financial system, that would have been really nice to know around the financial crash. If we could have got hold of the data that is possible now, but wasn't even 10 years ago, we'd be much sharper at understanding where problems are starting to bubble up and where interventions can be made. There are more pixels in our view of society. Speed, inevitably. I mean, a quote that's been associated with me that I might as well use again today: we can become real-time rather than rear-view mirror merchants. Things like epidemics or floods, you've got to be there fast with your analysis if you're to enable people to stop bad things happening and make sure activity is directed where it can most make a difference. Fourth one, cost. I mean, in this country at least, and I guess most official agencies around the world, money is very, very tight. There is a chance with big data to make data collection and analysis a lot cheaper. So we're going to get more bang for our buck if we get this right. And then finally, we get a lot more knowledge of new methods which we can apply back into our old work. So generally, I think they get more capability. Now, my Get Stats quote was, those people that get stats will get on, and those that don't will get left behind in the new world. And I think that means that's true for official statisticians, it's true for policymakers, and it's true for citizens. The opportunity is to give citizens the power to use statistics to improve their daily lives. So 5 big opportunities, but also 5 challenges. And the primary one is, can we innovate fast enough to stay in the game while still keeping the show on the road? And we publish hundreds of new pieces of information every month, and people rely on those to be right and on time and trusted and used. We can't somehow stop doing that in order to do this new stuff. So how do we change fast enough? And what do we need to think about? I mean, the first set of problems, I think, are statistical. And I think they are really, really crucial where we can earn our money. Bias is the enemy. We've got a lot of methods for dealing with bias in sources we know. These new sources We know they've got biases in. Not a lot of other people do. There is the fallacy of n equals all, and I'll argue with Ken later about whether there is anything that is real data. Everything has imprecision in it. Everything has something that needs to be allowed for if you want to get a fair view of what's going on. So there's a big challenge of doing the statistics well. There's a big challenge of technology. Sitting in governments, we're sitting on a hell of a lot of legacy stuff that doesn't necessarily allow itself to be used in different ways. It doesn't allow words like agility to come into the equation very easily. But it also doesn't allow for some of the issues we've got to tackle here about security. It's going to matter to us not to lose things. It's going to matter to us to protect data. There's a lot of technical things in there that we really need to get a grip of. And no one's getting this right yet. And if we don't get it right soon, we're either going to miss the opportunity or we're going to take it too fast before we're ready. We need to be smart and safe. So 3rd out of 5 is ethics. We've heard a lot about ethics. And in a discussion I was having with Sandy earlier, we talked about a wonderful study in an American city that was based on putting cameras on the top of buildings and looking at lights going on and off in buildings, which gave you a fabulous insight into how the city worked. But it also had a pretty good insight into what was going on behind some of those windows. That was not a well ethically moderated study. And if too many of those get put out as open data sets, then we're all in big trouble. How do we understand what people care about? How do we create some rules that ensure that people see that what we're doing is trustworthy and good? 4th is the commercial one. It's already been mentioned, and I think it's really important that we work creatively across boundaries. There has to be a new business model for official statistics that creates both public value and commercial benefit. And finally, and I guess the top of the list really, is skills. We've got to learn new stuff. Now, for me, it's a bit of a state of back to the future, because I learnt my stats in the 70s, when we had to have these card decks and we had to do Fortran and we had to do all our own coding, otherwise we couldn't do any statistics. Now, the last 30 years, we've kind of forgotten about that. But we're going to need to do that again. This is a blend of statistics and computing that requires us to be coders if we're going to get the potential out of the data. But it's not just kind of technical skills. There's a whole load of skills that are really about how we find the data that we need. Learn what these data sets are, what their properties are, and fundamentally learn who can help us. Work across boundaries so we create a community, and I tribute to the RSS this evening for bringing together this wonderfully mixed community of people here. We must make common cause to make something of big data for our official statistics. Because in my view, there has never been a better time to be working in this field. Because together we can make a massive difference to the future of the world, a difference that was not possible before big data arrived. So let's embrace it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John.